we're ready to demo. So it's not often that you get to ask engineers to build a buggy web app, but Jam is a bug capture tool, so we did need a buggy web app to show you Jam working on it. So here's a pizza order form that, well, sadly, does not work. So we can instant replay, capture the bug in past tense, and send it to a bug report. Now, the worst part of getting a bug report is you have to then fix the bug, but that's what AI is really good for. AI has infinite patience. You don't have to search on Stack Overflow what the errors mean. AI has all of the errors of what happened, all the console errors, all the network errors, and now we've added a little AI bot that will help you debug and fix the issue. So it's opt-in for data privacy. And drum roll, please. It's got some suggestions for how to fix the bug. There's a failed network request. That's not all, folks. So now I'm an engineer and I'm like, that's great, but fix my code. So I can grab the code that creates the network request and just paste in code to fix. And GemGPT will just tell me exactly what the fix is. And it will even write a PR description if I ask for one. Woohoo! So building an AI feature was infinitely interesting. It changed the relationship between designer and engineer. Our Figma file had prompts in them. It was like a crafted experience. And while on one hand, you see something that looks like a conversation, in the back end, we're having a totally different conversation with the AI. Like, for example, we want to be able to do syntax highlighting, but we don't know what language it is. So in the back end, we just ask Chat or OpenAI's API, and then we show it to you. And it's such an interesting experience to build. So I'm so excited for you to see 4 demos. The first demo is going to be from Marguerite at Blockade Labs. Marguerite, before you start, who are you? What are you building? Why are you building it?
Totally. So Marguerite DeCourcelle, CEO of Blockade Labs, which is actually Blockade Games. So January 2018, I founded a game company called Blockade Games, Web3 game studio. Last year, we acquired an AI studio called 330 AI. This happened because they presented me with a platform that I fed it a bunch of our content and kicked back game characters that were immediately bringable in our animation systems. So as a game developer, I was like, holy crap, that's crazy. And I pivoted basically our entire company then to go after this other universal problem solving of game development tooling using generative AI. So the first place we went after was, so to be honest, this is going to sound very interesting, but skyboxes, if you're familiar, are the top selling assets in all marketplaces across different game marketplaces. And that's because they're really difficult to make. So what we found was that our technology and the combined entity was able to produce these wildly high resolution assets, so 6K resolution within under 10 seconds. So we could solve this problem with skyboxes for lots of game developers. But more than that, skyboxes are like a Trojan horse into with the technology and where that could go. So I don't really want to give you guys a slideshow. What I want to show you is what we can do. And what I would like is to, as a group, prompt an environment. So give me a few words about an environment.
Awesome.
Okay.
Dystopian. Your house. Capital.
Rainbow Road, did you say? Okay. Oh, you know, what's like prompting, like synonyms are helpful. Okay, let's see what we can. It's going to take about 30 seconds because so it's 10 seconds for the actual ML pipeline, and then the serving takes an additional amount of time. But you can see here, just 360 viewer. Hopefully it kicks back soon. We pushed an update for depth maps and it broke our scroll feature, which I was going to show you guys. So I'll show you a video of it, but I'm not going to be able to demo it live, unfortunately. But I'll show here any. And then I'm going to show you where this goes for 3D space and environments. Third-party developers are already working with the depth map function and what we're doing with their generation to be able to create explorable spaces with geometry in game engines. Should work. Maybe we'll go over here for a second. All right, so this is an example of the geometry. You can see this is a depth map, which is actually just a 2D 360 image with depth. And so some of these other things that have happened though with what we've been doing. I'm going to show you guys this. This is a sketch. This is drawing within the application, giving the context for our AI model.
Oh.
So you put in the prompt, and then typically within this 30-second period, then you have this space. And then you can choose different styles and use that. So let's see if it's actually rendered.
Where's our health state?
Okay, well, you know what? It's a live demo. So what did we expect?
Wait, the tab over that you were showing us, yeah, that one.
Oh,
Did you say that's a 2D image that is just being rendered?
the one that was explorable in the space. So same concept. So this is that again with the depth map. So this is possible today. You import that all into the game engine, and then you can have an explorable world.
Oh.
Right. So this is possible today. With the technology, we're not building all the interface for it, but you can export it into the game. And then found out we didn't render the other thing. Something else I wanted to show is this is a developer on Quest. So importing the skybox and this experience, they have an avatar system and showcasing like changing their avatar into the scene. So it's like a set production. And the remix, this is remix. So this is another example of having the structure and based on prompt, being able to change weather, time of day, setting, based on a scene that you might like or a space you might control. But happy to discuss more of this later, and also you can do live demo with us if you.
Okay, our next presenter is Linus.
So I'm Linus. I work on AI at Notion, and if you are a daily user of Notion, you probably saw we had an announcement today. We announced support for projects and tasks and sprints and things an engineering team or product team might need inside Notion. And I won't talk too much about that except for the AI piece of it. And given the project management, I wanted to open with the most important project in my life, which is listening to Taylor Swift every day. And also, I don't know if any of you were at the concert. In my Notion, I have this database of songs that I listen to every day and albums that I listen to. And this is fine, but just keeping track of this by itself is not that useful. And what I might want to know, for example, is like for every day, I might want to have a new column and maybe keep track of. Ask the AI, what could have compelled me to listen to these songs? Ask it to read my mind and figure out like, what could I have been feeling? And thank you. So what's new in Notion databases that we brought Notion AI into databases in terms of in the form of a specific database property or database column that could be filled out by an AI given proper instruction. And so in this case, I have a new vibes column. And if I go in here, I can set this up with an AI autofill. So an autofill will have Notion AI look at everything in that page, including all the properties and all the people that are tagged and all the contents. And I'm able to ask for it in this case, speculate about what feelings I might have been feeling when I listened to the song. And as with all of these AI things, prompting takes a few iterations. So let's try this first one. And we'll just try it on the first couple of items in the table. And it's like in the way that GPT does, it kind of writes it's a full essay. And maybe this is a little long, so maybe I'll give it a few extra pieces of information. Respond with a short list of emotions and feelings formatted as a separated list. I'll try it again. We'll write again. Maybe I'll say with a very short list formatted as a comma separated list of 4 or 5 words. Cool, that's pretty good. And then once I've got this prompt, I can save it. And then I can go and I can ask AI to fill this out for everything in the rest of the database. And it'll take a while because it's a lot of words, but eventually it'll fill out the entire database. And you can also configure these prompts for these properties, these AI-enabled properties, to critically update every time something in the page changes. For example, if I went and I listened to an extra song today, it'll, within a matter of a few minutes, the AI will go in and say, hey, you updated this page, let me go and update the vibes column. For the few among you that don't keep this kind of a database for Taylor Swift every day, there's a few other use cases that I think you might find useful. Here in this other page, like I think a lot of other people, I keep reading lists of articles I need to read inside Notion. There are ways to send bookmarks and PDFs and things like that into your Notion with automations, and I have something like that set up. And so here's a list of a database of things that I should read and a list of articles. And in this case, you can make here I made a couple of different AI autofill columns. One is just a general summary. And so for something like this, we have a built-in summary prompt that Notion has worked a lot on and tried to improve. And this is something that's shared across all of the other sort of AI features inside Notion. And so you can ask the AI to summarize, and every time you add a new blog post or a new Substack or new something to read in this database, it will go in and summarize it for you. And then here we have another column that's for takeaways. And so here we have this extra prompt called key info, which lets you ask the AI to answer a question given a document or pull out a specific piece of information from a document. And here I've just asked it with the most important lesson. I don't have time to read everything that I've been reading this. And so here I have a simple table now of everything I should read and the key pieces of information that I should learn from it. And because it's Notion, everything is a building block for you to customize your view to whatever you want. So if I wanted a gallery view or a board view or a Kanban board of my reading list, I could have that and also surface the data prompts in those spaces as well. I have here something that looks like personal CRM also, or I've used AI to craft kind of like a 2-sentence pitch for why people should meet these people in my contact list, in case it's useful. And then here for my task list that I belong in a project on a team, I've used AI to summarize the contents of, if you have long discussions or comments inside a project or task inside your Notion database, you can use AI to summarize these things and keep them up to date. And so this is AI autofill. It's new as of, I think, last Thursday. And so far it's generated around 3 billion tokens, which is kind of cool. And I wanted to, with how much time I have, I wanted to end on a couple of interesting sort of lessons and thoughts that we as a team kind of arrived on in the process of building this and working on AI in general. First is the importance of continuous regression testing and evaluation, especially for edge cases. A couple of these examples for Notion are, Notion is a product that's used very widely internationally, and so a lot of our users are foreign language speakers. We're not foreign for them, we're foreign for us. We write our prompts in English, which you don't think about until you think about it, and you're like, wait, we write all our prompts in English, GPT is mostly trained on English. It turns out GPT actually does okay on international languages, but you have to explicitly tell it, if the document is in French, respond in French. And so given our prompts are already in English, we have to do a lot of testing continuously to ensure that we don't regress on responding and respecting the user's language preferences. And there are also just weird examples that you find, like some people dump entire Zoom transcripts inside Notion pages. Sometimes the document is just empty, and AI will just write an essay about why the document is empty because the AI does that. And here we have to explicitly tell the AI, please respond with no content to the document. So continuous testing of these things and building, we built a collection of scripts and tools internally to be able to continuously test these things easily. And so that was useful. Another realization that I had is this trade-off in designing interfaces around AI between generality of interfaces and the intuitiveness. It's tempting to just put in a fully custom prompt box in these things and say, hey, this is the most powerful thing you can have. You can prompt for anything that you want. But this is kind of intimidating. If you just give people an autofill box and say, hey, you can ask it to do anything, it's confusing exactly what you can do. And if you are bringing this to people that have other things to do and problems to solve during the day, they might say, I don't know how this is useful, this is cool, but I don't know how this fits into what I'm currently doing. And so we found it useful to add specific use cases like summaries and pulling out information from meetings and things like that, to not only as a set of guardrails for the model to perform better using customized prompts, but as a way to cue to our users what AI could use. And so in this particular case, at least given the data so far, summary is, I think by a factor of like 6 or 7, the most popular prompt used. But having the escape hash of a custom prompt lets us and our sort of ambassadors and our most enthusiastic users push the boundaries and discover what use cases are actually useful that we might not have thought of yet. And then lastly, I think there's an interesting way to think about, I've been doing a lot about trust when using these models. Trust is important because trust, I think, is a product of sort of two things. One is trust in the security and privacy of these systems. I think when people look at AI products, they have all these questions like, are you training on my data? What's happening when I send you my information? Is going to OpenAI? Are you storing these things, logging these things anywhere? And Notion obviously has not only done the things that we need to do to stay compliant with all of this that we have in terms, but gone above and beyond to make sure that your data is safe. And whenever we do share it with parties like OpenAI that they're not being trained on, they're not looking at it. But also, trust has a lot to do with, I think, control. So I was talking earlier, I think with Stu, about GPT performs better and you're able to trust the output more when you give it just more context. So if you have a 2-sentence instruction on how to write a product spec versus like a whole page of instructions and then a bunch of extra context about what exactly you want, or examples from before, the model's naturally going to do better and meet your expectations better. And because the expectations are set better and more agreed upon between the user and the model, the human's going to trust the model more. And that's not necessarily about security and privacy and things like that. It's just about if you give the model more context, the output is going to be more of the user expected, and so there's going to be a higher level of trust between the user and the AI. And so I think when we're thinking about trust, when I'm thinking about trust, that control and context aspect. So hopefully that was kind of useful, and thank you.
So we're building a creative AI tool, and the key thing here is just how do you use this technology to bring your specific ideas to life? And what you find with a lot of the tools that exist right now is they can generate really cool content, but it's not going to be exactly a reflection of what you're imagining or the specific thing you're trying to go for, because you're limited to just these very simple, bare bones text prompt interfaces. And so we address this in a couple of ways. First of all, by building a native app that runs on your iPad, and which you can use the app with and make drawings that's actually interpreting. And so here, just to save a little bit of time, the first thing I just drew ahead of time and generated some things just so I knew the back end is actually working right now. And so I typed in, so I drew this thing right here. I typed in something like divine being portrait, something along those lines. And then I generated these based on that. The cool thing here is you can actually just make specific edits to things or take existing things and extend them. So I'll try to do this really quickly. I'm going to do a not very good job. Sit down. I'm going to do a not great job because I'm actually very rushed here so that we don't all have to sit here and wait too long. But I'll try to draw something like in the form of the body right here. Or maybe just like an upper body or something. Going. And so like with this sort of tool, you can imagine going in, making very specific edits, being able to mock things up really quickly, which is very convenient when you're in that stage of the creative process where you're going from 0 to 1, basically, where you don't exactly know what you want that final product asset to be yet. And instead it's just trying to visualize your ideas so that you can actually get to the point where you're confident in your creating, which is a pretty common process if maybe you're in your concept artist at a film studio, you're in your branding firm, or really you're just any sort of digital artist. So I'll just leave it like this for now, just so you're not sitting here waiting for me to finish drawing this. And so I'll just continue saying, again, like I said, it's not going to mess with the face, because in this case, we like the face, or if we didn't like the face, we would have drawn on top of it to edit it further. So instead, it's just going to give me or it's going to go off of the one that I just also set the iPad is around the volume on that. If I click generate more, it's going to actually generate more based on which one I selected. So it's iterative. So notice how these are more reflective of the one I selected. Anyway, what you can also do to have it nail your specific ideas is personalize the model to your own style or a certain style that you're going for. So that's done using this ability to fine tune a model in the app. So I'll just show you a couple examples of that I've done. Pretty big. So literally you can take, let's say you're an artist, you can just take a handful of images from your portfolio and upload them to the app, and it'll train a model on it. So in this example one I made, it's just nature paintings by Cezanne. And now this is going to basically add a custom specialized model to your account that's really good at its specific value. And the cool thing is the way we built this, you can actually switch between all these different models you've trained in real time. So in this case, it's as simple as basically like taking from or something. So I'll pick the Cezanne model here, and then I will generate something that Cezanne has definitely never painted. I'll do a cyborg android concept. Let's see if I mean maybe we'll see what this generates. Who knows? This is just so far outside the boundaries of what Cezanne would ever do. Oh, yeah. And so in this case, that was good. And so in these cases, I'm just generating a full image here. But again, I could draw on top of this to continue editing in the same way that you all saw before, or I'll just use the morph tool, for example. I'll just do Android. I'll just for now, just so you don't have to sit here watching me prompt. This is just the morph tool where I'm basically just creating variations on this image still in the same style, just to, if you want to riff on it. And so like where we're going from here is we're making this collaborative freeform for mood boarding. So like Figma basically, except a little bit simpler. So you're just riffing on that same sort of sickness.
Show us what it looks like to edit something. And if so, what's it called?
It's called Wand. So you can find it at wand_app on Twitter or wand.app on the internet. It's still in beta, so it's not out yet. It will be out soon. There's waitlist. If you are a very specifically fitted person to this product or what you're working on or whatever else, just DM Twitter or DM me in the Discord or wherever else.
I have been saved for last because what I'm about to show you is going to make your brain leave your head. No, I'm just kidding. It's very, it's an interesting twist on some stuff you may have seen. But I'm Stu Fortier, building Type, which is a new kind of document editor that's powered by AI. And I've been a founder for the better part of the last decade, extremely passionate about writing, kind of on the side. And basically for the last decade, it has not been obvious to me how technology can really help with the hard parts of writing. What's hard about writing is what's hard about kind of like thinking. But obviously like 2 years ago, that changed. Like language models is how I view it is like it's our first set of software tools that can actually think. You can go to the details of what that means, but they can clearly mimic at least cognition. And that's actually the stuff that's really hard about writing and producing high quality content. We think, my co-founder and I, that basically puts everything up to debate on what the feature set should be within a document editor, like what the core capabilities should be in writing software. And so we've started to build Type, which is our spin on what modern writing software should be like. So the live demo, I don't know what our aha moment actually is, so let the audience decide. First thing we've done, we've been around, like had the product live for a couple months, so still fairly early, but we've intentionally chosen a very familiar interface, kind of Google Docs, even a little bit Notion-esque. We have some block architecture that we use to basically encourage the active participation and set the expectation that as a user, you're going to be the one really editing and refining text as the AI writes, versus kind of doing the back and forth with ChatGPT until you're just like, Jesus, I just need to edit this myself and port it over to Google Docs. So with writing, we'll do a sample. I won't write a whole blog post here, but often for me, the writing process starts with thinking and getting clear on what I'm actually trying to say, not actually kind of doing the writing. So I'm going to do a little sample here. I'll do some brainstorming. What have been the big revolutions in our writing tools? So I think for this demo, start a little blog post on what's been the history and the future of writing software and writing tools. And this is just ChatGPT, kind of like you'd expect. So very much not an aha moment for our ChatGPT users. But I'm going to say, remove the first two, last three are the most interesting. And I'm speeding through this, but this would obviously typically be me just like trying to find clarity on what I want to write about and say. And so here we go. Like this is the history of the last three big breakthroughs in recent memory with writing technologies in the typewriter, going from pen and paper basically to mechanical device that creating consistent text. word processor making the software version of a typewriter, and obviously the internet and collaborative writing software. Those have been the real arc that have gotten us, and AI I think will be the next. And so at this point, I might have enough clarity to actually start writing. So I'm going to say like an intro section to a blog post about this topic and focus on the next revolution. AI that helps us. So this is where you start to see a little bit of a difference. Demo goes as planned, we'll see. Type kind of knows when it's producing text that I might want to use in my document. Puts in this nice little handy block here. If I wanted, I could do a few more passes on this, like edit and refine it. But as this handy little drag function, I can just pull it over into my draft and get to work like I might do more typically with the writing process. So once I've done the ideation, I'm ready to really start moving on a piece. We kind of view writing as like sculpting. You might want the AI to generate a piece of marble for you, and then you're going to go ahead and whittle away at it. So actually, a lot of our capabilities are like inline commands you can summon with Command K, like some other applications that have the context of your document. They know where your cursor is. You highlight text. They have that content. They have that context. And so as a result, kind of like Linus was saying on some of the summarization feature within this Notion cells, we kind of created the easy button for a bunch of very common writing primitives. So one example is write a headline for what's in the document so far. This would be a simple little headline that we can write with. I haven't actually read this intro, so I totally suck, but that opening line's kind of bang. But anyways, here I'm like, okay, I've got this thing ready to go. I'm gonna do a little bit of writing myself and find this thing, what's next, and I'll do a little section here of like short history, writing, technology. And here, maybe I want to write a paragraph or a sentence here. I'm just going to summon a command that's called write paragraph. I don't have to tell it what to write the paragraph about. I don't have to do any custom prompting. It knows where my cursor is. It's under this subheader. So clearly I want to talk about this. It'll generate something kind of appended and inserted into the document that should, again, read reading. Oh no, a new aha moment. It's write paragraph. It was like a feature that took 2 days to build. So from here, like there's a few things that I might typically do when I'm writing. One is obviously just continue this process of like me writing this first little bit of something that can be AI to continue. But also refining text is what's really part of the writing process. So that's another thing. We just try to keep you in flow as you're doing it. And here I'll maybe just say, break this up to make it readable. And I can keep this scratch pad of chat where I'm not cluttering my document with a bunch of stuff. This kind of just gets over into the sidebar where I can keep refining this if I wanted. Oh, I think there might be a bug on this. Let's see. Oh my God, it worked. Okay. We can, anyway, very obscure bug that I've thought many times. And I can just insert it right in the doc, and that's now transformed and kind of kept clean. So these are some of the basic kind of first steps into making these language models just really optimize like the writing process, really trying to harmonize with how people actually write and think. I'll just say a couple other really quick small things. So one of the things I hate the most about writing with ChatGPT is like having a conversation about something that would take a half second to just do myself, priming the thing. So one of the fun things about staying in a writing kind of workflow is that you can just write the first few words of something. So use an analogy. And then summon something like write sentence with keyboard shortcuts. Okay, that completely failed. Let's do this one more time. There we go. It'll pick up on his analogy, has the context. Right at time here. But basically, we just think you can take one workflow, whether it's creating art, whether it's obviously Notion, team collaboration, productivity, and for us writing, obviously video games. If you just go super deep with it, really optimize for what are the killer core elements of the workflow and build AI features around it, we just think that's going to revolutionize all the tools that we know today. So anyways, a lot more to do here, but this is the first vision of what that'll look like.
Give it up for the 4 presenters.